Call Don right now, 682-1270.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And I do believe we have State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Cindy Hill, on the phone. Are you there?
Good morning, Don. Good morning, Don. How are you?
Good. I apologize for the little mix-up over the phones there. It's good to have you on the show.
Well, I apologize as well. My wish was to be with you, and so I'm glad I'm here. And hello to all of your listeners. Yeah.
It's one of the things with live radio. You know how it goes. It's sometimes things get a little bit mixed up. But I'm glad you could join us. And I guess just for people that are maybe a little bit new to the discussion, could you just give us a little bit of an update on what's going on with your side of this whole mess?
Well, right now, as you know, we have that constitutional challenge. I filed a suit regarding SF 104, which occurred during the legislative session, which essentially stripped me of all duties and roles and responsibilities. And that brief was filed, late May, early June. They're responding probably July 5th. We should have their brief in. And then there'll be a quick reply within a couple weeks of that from our group again. And then hopefully the courts will start considering this issue. The people's vote and voice, I think, have been removed. And as you know, there was a referendum, Constitutional Party, and that was Jennifer Young and many others statewide worked very hard to gather signatures so that we could have this question on the ballot in 2014. I think it was a success. They didn't have enough signatures. Unfortunately, there were a few weeks of bureaucracy that took precious time from their work, and they had nearly 22,000 signatures, though. And I was very pleased with that. People from all over the state found a way to one of the sponsors to sign this really important referendum. So again, the vote and voice of the people could be heard regarding one of the most important positions in Wyoming, the Superintendent of Public Instruction. That post is incredibly important. And, I'm not running for this position again, but I feel so strongly that the people's vote and voice are heard. And so there's a great deal of support out there. But as you know, the Speaker of the House has had another committee assigned, another investigatory committee. We've been through audits, audit after audit since I've walked through the door at the Department of Ed, and investigations. I was through, participated in one last year, $250,000 for Michael Fleechek and Ruth Summers, again, to investigate the department. Just this spring, another one with Kathy McPherson, a lawyer, who $150,000 was appropriated for her to have, an investigatory committee that included the former deputy from the person I defeated in the 2010 election. So there's been a lot of audits, a lot of investigations. I'm really proud of the results, which continue to show that there's nothing of substance. But this new committee that the legislature, in this case Speaker Lubnow, just assigned, this is political now. And this won't have to do with this. There will be absolutely, questionable processes here. From the start, I can tell you that that's occurred. I don't know exactly what the discussions were as he was able to secure the confidence of some of the legislators to put together this committee, but I don't think that he had told them that he was going to appoint the Rules Committee, which every single member of that committee voted for SF 104. So there's no balance. There's no process that I can see that is fair and balanced and measured here. I'm very concerned about now it's become very political. And so the focus, I believe, will be impeachment. And I believe that that's in part for the, to eliminate me from running in 2014 for governor.
Okay, so I mean, that's actually one of the questions I was going to ask. You kind of got ahead of me a little bit, but so I mean, since you're not going to run again in 2014 for for state superintendent, I mean, you are considering a run for governor then?
I am, and this state superintendent of public instruction is one of the most important positions in this state for the people to be able to vote for. Education matters to our not only our citizens, but our children, and parents should be able to weigh in on who's leading. And right now, really the question has been, are we going to federalize education in Wyoming, or are we going to maintain the local control? And the centralization has been taking place since before I was elected. And that's really where I think the rub is, and the important matter for the people to weigh in on. If they don't have a vote or voice, then it's really important you have a governor who really listens to the people and is responsive to the local focus in our state. I think the best decisions in Wyoming are made in Wyoming. I don't think federalization of our educational system, and again, we're moving in many steps in that direction. I think the people are paying attention and they're becoming aware of this. So that's the overall real pressing issue here. And you've heard about that. As soon as SF 104 was signed, our current governor, again, who changed his job responsibilities mid cycle of his first term, he went to D.C. and he signed us up for the waiver. The No Child Left Behind waiver, which waivers always sound good, but this one signs us up for more federal regulation. And that's what occurred immediately after SF 104. And I've stood in the way of the people of Wyoming and the federal government as far as that waiver, because if you are really interested, I encourage you to read what's in that waiver. It's more requirements, more authority given to the federal government regarding education in Wyoming, and I do not believe that that's in the best interest of our people or our students.
Okay, and actually, I want to ask the people that are calling in just to hang on the line, and we will get to you in just a few moments, but I do have a couple more questions. So now I just want to kind of go back to the impeachment thing. I mean, do you foresee an impeachment effort being successful? And if it is, would that affect your plans to still run for governor?
Well, constitutionally, if any elected official is impeached, they're they cannot run for office. So that would be the problem. That's why I believe they've moved it finally into a political process. Because when we went through all the other processes, there's actually no substance to the information that they've gathered. The latest one, it was all innuendo, allegations, but absolutely no substance. So now we're in a political process, and the gloves are off. There's no way to, as I said, the process isn't going to be fair or measured. I don't believe there'll be any due process here.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Yeah, I believe that the focus is impeachment, and when it's focused on impeachment, and you have a number of people in the legislature who were in support of SF 104, it may mean that Cindy Hill will not be able to run for governor. And there are a couple legislators, I've been told, who are interested in running for governor this next time. There's speculation that our governor will be running for Senate, and that Representative Stepson and Representative Teeters are interested in running for governor, and so they need to remove Cindy Hill from this equation.
Oh, I see. See, I didn't know that provision in the state constitution. So you're basically saying that this is just an effort to kind of get one of the potential opponents out of the way.
Well, let's just talk about this for a moment. What specific information have you been given in the last 2.5 years, after all the audits and after all the investigations, where it said that I have violated a state law, violated a policy, where I have misused or misappropriated in any way state funds or federal funds? And what I would say to you if I had, I think the Casper Star would have had it on the front page with the details. There have been no specifics. You've seen headlines, 2-inch headlines, and that's because the story doesn't have substance.
You're basically saying that the report that came out a few weeks ago that's all innuendo and no real details, then, right?
Can you give me any specifics? Have you read the report? It would be so important to read it, Don, and then let me know your thoughts.
Oh yeah, and I haven't read the entire report. I mean, I've read the stories, and of course, that's another thing that you don't know who to believe, and to be honest, I just try to give everybody a chance to kind of speak their piece. So, I'm glad to hear this side of the story, so to speak.
Well, if you can tell me what state law or what policy did I violate, I think that would be very clear by now. Don't you think? I've been asking that question all along, since the very first audit, since I walked through the door.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely it's a fair question to ask, and I guess any possible impeachment effort would hinge on that. I mean,
actually, it doesn't. When it's political, they can make a vote without having those facts. So again, this is an appointment of a committee that all voted for SF 104, and even legislators within the legislature are questioning whether this can be unbiased, whether or not there will be any objectivity to it. And I think that people know, and certainly I do. Now this one is political, and I have not complained about any of them up until now. I have gone through, again, audit after audit, investigation after investigation, and if you heard me complaining, no, we've just done the work and we focus on kids, which right now we're not focusing on the students. Thank heavens the districts are not being distracted by this, but the department is, and I will say that the people are being distracted by some silliness. If you read some of those headlines and some of the information in this last investigatory investigation, you would say, holy smokes, is this nonsense? And I do hope you'll read the whole report and listen to the video. I had the tape of the very first meeting with my staff. I say watch it from start to end. It'll show a lot of information that maybe even in the report was misled. There are misstatements in that report, misquotes of me, and if you watch the video, you'll see where that's not accurate.
Sure. So, are you ready to maybe take a few calls?
Let's take them.
Yeah, the phones are blowing up, and I know we have a lot of people who are kind of eager to talk to you. So, let's try the first one. News Talk 1270 KIML Don Carpenter Show. You're on the air with Cindy Hill. Hello.
Hello, Don. This is Jim.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing great today, and I do appreciate Cindy calling in to the Campbell County community. I do think that there's some political venues that are maybe taking place here, and I think rather than focusing on the politics of it, like she just stated, a lot of our children are being left behind. A lot of the education goals are being left behind without a lot of support from who is calling themselves a superintendent of schools. I do have one question to start out with, and knowing the fact that there was $1.36 million designated to Cindy, as well as 8 personnel to continue her efforts, here's the question. Having been given the opportunity by the voting population of Wyoming to focus on the issues of superior education for the youth of Wyoming, rather than dealing with the mounds of paperwork and audits and reporting, what programs have you initiated to identify the issues that are hindering our teaching professionals from achieving superior education?
Wow, that's an excellent question.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
So, and I hope, did you happen to complete our survey that we put out in April and May, and I believe it even was there in June? Did you complete that survey?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good. Then you'll be contributing to our report in October to the legislature with just that summary, because that's one of the things that in SF 104 they asked us to complete a summary. It really was very generic. We didn't have a lot of guidance from the statute, but we decided that we would gather information all over the state so that people like yourself could weigh in on what is most important for our state, what's working and what's not. So that will be coming out. And I hope I'll give you my telephone number so that you can follow up with me, 286-0479. I want to make certain you have a copy personally, and we can review that together.
I don't think you answered the question, Cindy. The question was, with the $1.36 million that you've been given and the 8 personnel, what have you personally or your team done to identify the issues that are hindering our teaching professionals from achieving superior education in the state of Wyoming, since you don't have to focus on the paperwork and the audits and the reporting?
Let's answer that. With SF 104, I've been given very limited duties, and I think you're probably familiar with that. I have been given the Teacher of the Year. I can now do rules and regs and monitor toxic and hazardous waste, head injuries, seclusion and restraint. Those are the limits of what I can do since SF 104. I am restricted from working with teachers. I'm restricted from working with schools, and except for in those capacities. So you're right. I have a very limited responsibility right now, and unfortunately, that's not what the people hired me or elected me to do. And so thank you for pointing it out. It's most important that everyone understands that I've been completely stripped, with the exception of those very few things, is where do we put the Lysol in which particular closet in a school. So that's a very good point. Thank you very much. While I was superintendent, I felt really good about what we were doing in the department, and the scores were, for 2 years in a row, every subject matter tested, every grade level tested, were increasing for the first time in decades. And when Fremont 38 asked us to partner with them, we went right in and did it, even though my staff were really, resistant, some of them, into actually going in and working alongside the school.
Okay. I want to thank Jim for that call. Let's try another call. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that one. Let's try one more. Okay, maybe not. Okay. Sorry about that. I guess 682-1270. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Maybe they had the same question. My guess is they might have had the same question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any more questions for State Superintendent of Public Instruction, and here we go. The lines start lighting up. As soon as they know they can get through, they call right back. Let's try one more time. News Talk 1270, KIML, you're on the air with Cindy Hill.
I'm about out on the moon here, so I'd just like to ask Cindy, how much money have they wasted on all these audits instead of trying to help our education? And I'm going to jump out here because I've already supported her, and I know she's done the help, and I know our legislature's done nothing. Thanks.
Okay, how much money have they spent doing these investigations?
It's difficult to actually give you a number, and I would say hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I just mentioned the $250,000 for Michael Fleechek and then Ruth Summers, and then also the $150,000 for McPherson, and that doesn't include all of the labor of all those within the state who've had the audits and the responsibilities. The Wyoming Department of Ed has labored, and the Department of Audit has labored. So, and we've had consultants after consultants involved. In fact, I understand that with this new investigatory committee, they're going to hire more consultants. And that's where I've been very opposed to all the money that's spent where it doesn't get to our students. This is just more of the same.
Okay, it's a great question, good answer. Let's try going back to the phones. News Talk 1270, KIML, you're on the air with Cindy Hill.
Hello, Don. This is Jim again.
Oh, hi, Jim. Sorry about that.
That's all right. See, I just had another question. I know in some of the articles and things that have been written that Cindy refers to the Common Core standards as a federally mandated program. And in my studying of it, it looks like it's a National Governors Association designed by the private education groups as well. How are you articulating that it's a federal mandated program?
The Common Core standards are in lieu of the career and college readiness standards from the waiver. So as you know, Jim, if you're an educator, and it sounds like you're someone who's been involved in these things, or someone near you is, our State Board of Education approved the adoption of the Common Core standards in 2010, June of 2010, in order to apply for Race to the Top money. That was just 16 days after they had been released on a national level. I was opposed to that because I believe in a process, Jim. I think that our teachers and our people in Wyoming, when we're revising our Wyoming state standards, should have had an opportunity to truly participate in that process. As soon as they were approved for adoption, again, 16 days after they'd been released nationally, our school districts began implementing them. And for good reason. They felt like that was the direction we were going, and so they did. When I came in, I realized that that approving of the adoption meant that we had not followed any processes. And that was a problem, I think, because when we are deceptive and we use language to get our agenda moving in a certain direction, I think we lose the trust of the people. So when you think about the waiver, which the governor signed us up for, or committed us to when he went out right after he signed SF 104, in that waiver, it says that, again, the feds are requiring and authorizing whether or not we have career and college readiness standards. And the Common Core fit that bill. And so we adopted them in full with the governor's urging in 2012. Again, I was a no vote because, and as on the State Board of Education, because we'd not followed processes. The people of this state and the educators hadn't been fully involved, and I believe in that. So I no longer have a vote on the State Board of Education. That's the change with SF 104, so you won't hear the voice of the people through me again. But the governor has a commitment also with this waiver to the national test. And you're going to hear more about the national test. And my guess is, Jim, you may feel really good about that national test, but I think the people should be able to weigh in on that and what that means and how that impacts what gets done in the classroom. Also, the waiver, for those of you who are listening, that waiver requires that teachers, their evaluations are linked to student performance. And so there will be a certain percentage that may be with the national test or the state test. And I'm very concerned about that for this reason. We don't have a test that measures how well a teacher teaches. We have tests that tell how much students know. But if you really, any teacher would say, sure, I will use a test for my evaluation as long as it fairly reflects how well I teach. And there's not that test yet. And until we have that, I'm very concerned, again, about that one commitment in, again, the waiver that we've just said we'll do that here in Wyoming. Again, the governor is committing us to that because, again, he's the education leader in Wyoming. But, Jim, I do disagree with many of those things. And why would we relinquish authority over what we do here in Wyoming? We don't need to. Why would we want the federal government telling us whether or not we can or cannot do certain things in education? I say we'll decide the things which are in our best interest. We have a legislature, we have districts, we have school boards. School boards should be making those decisions, curriculum decisions, standards decisions. Testing decisions are things that we should all be concerned about.
Okay, do you have time to sit through a break and come back and answer a few more calls? Sure. Okay, what I'm going to do, we're running pretty long, so what I'm going to do, we're going to take a short break. We'll come back, and we'll take your calls for Cindy Hill, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show.
For the latest on the show, follow Don on Twitter, @TheDonCarpenter. News Talk 1270, KIML. You're listening to Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML, Don Carpenter Show. And if you're just joining us, we have Cindy Hill, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, on the phone. At least I think we still have you. Are you still there with us?
I'm here, Don.
Okay. Oh,
I'm right here.
The phones are actually working today. They're a point of contention with us a lot of times, and we have a full board of calls. I don't know if anybody hung up during the break, but we'll give it a shot. Okay. Okay, we'll try the next one. Nope. And we'll try one more. And News Talk 1270 KIML, you're on the air.
Hi, Don. Hi, Cindy. Can you hear me?
Who is this?
Oh, this is John. Hey, I just wanted to this over. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. I just wanted to let Cindy know I supported Cindy when she ran for state superintendent, and anybody who questions whether or not this is 100% political, there was Cindy, do you remember the call-in show? I think it was Hank Coe was talking to somebody on the radio over in Powell, and you called in, and that phone conversation or that interview with that representative was so disgusting to me. It was absolutely 100% political, and you held your ground with all of his accusations really well. And Don, you can find this. Maybe Cindy can tell you who the interviewer was, but it's something. The audio's out there. But that really kind of set the stage. And Cindy, I do believe I was disappointed that it went political, and that I think that you bought into it and became political rather than rising above it. And that was my only complaint about all of it. But I do appreciate this guy Jim that called in. I don't know who he is, but he brought up the Common Core. I do believe that it's a national curriculum by another name, and by statute, when they developed the Department of Education in 1979, it was outlawed that we couldn't have a national curriculum, and this is another way in. This is a backdoor way in. So I do appreciate you standing up for us in Wyoming, and we don't need to have a race to the middle or whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. I believe that we can do it better than anybody else, and I appreciate that you've stood for that, and I'm sorry that you don't have a voice in that now.
And I appreciate your call, John. And I will say that when you think about the federal involvement with Common Core, the National Governors Association and the Chief State Schools Officers Association, those folks who are involved in the Common Core development, both the National Governors and the Chief State Schools group are both funded by 50% by the federal funding for both groups. And when you think about the national test, PARC, and it's called Smarter Balanced, $376 million of federal dollars spent for both of those national consortia. So if we don't think the feds are involved in this, I just happen to disagree. I think, John, you and I both would agree that there's a lot of federal money involved here, and they have a great deal of influence on what's going on. And this political part, I've had to respond to it. I have to tell you, my focus is still on the students, and our scores are, increasing, and I appreciate the work that all the teachers are doing, and that's what really matters, is that our districts stay focused and not distracted. The silliness, I would say, that's going on, I have to respond to it, unfortunately, and right now I'm very limited in my duties because of SF 104, but I believe if you're going to have an education governor, he shouldn't self-appoint. It should be someone that the people vote for, and that we should have someone who leads, who actually knows what it means to grow kids, and that actually trusts the people and trusts that the expertise lies within the state.
Yeah, okay, and let's. And I want to remind everybody, if you call in and you get put on hold, just hang on with us. So we'll try going to the phones. Okay, we'll try this one. News Talk 1270 KIML. You're on the phone with Cindy Hill.
Hi, Cindy. I have a question regarding Common Core. This is unrelated to your battle with Lubnow and his cohorts, but regarding Common Core, what are the ramifications of that regarding homeschoolers? Wyoming is one of the most lenient states regarding homeschooling, and while some abuse that, others use it to a very great advantage. I want to speak highly of my folks. I was homeschooled from kindergarten through 12th grade and went to college and had a 4.0. I'm not bragging, I'm just showing what homeschooling can do. and I'm wondering how Common Core is going to inhibit homeschooling. Thank you.
And as far as the subgroups at the University of Wyoming, homeschoolers perform very well at the university, and I think we all know that homeschooling is the optimal. If you have a parent who's willing to commit, how fortunate for the students. Now, I will say, how will this all impact homeschoolers? That's yet to be seen. I know that one of the homeschoolers, a student contacted me, a 7th grader, and she let me know that they one of the field-tested items on the state assessment, it was a Common Core item, had an agenda, a philosophical agenda that she disagreed with, coming from a ranching family. It had to do with prairie dogs and how we annihilated them, essentially, and the problems with ranchers and farmers were, there was a very negative perspective on farmers and ranchers in this state, and the question really was disturbing to her as a 7th grader. So I think the assessment is where I would put my energy. I'm worried about what those questions will be and what they'll reflect to our students as far as our own values. And so I don't know. Homeschoolers, if they remain, removed from the system, they may be able to maintain their independence. But if you have your students who are participating in any of the testing, their students will be influenced by some of these things.
Okay, and want to remind everybody, we actually have a couple of lines open. 682-1270 is the number. 682-1270 is the number. Let's go to this call. And News Talk 1270, KIML. You're on the air with Cindy Hill.
Hey, Don, this is Scott. Cindy, appreciate you coming on. I'm really ignorant when it comes to some of this.
I can't hear him, Don.
Keeping up on it.
Is that better?
Can you hear?
I can't hear him.
You're a little bit low. Let me try something here. Okay.
Sure. Is that any better?
I can hear you. Cindy, can you hear him? Hello?
I can't hear anything.
Oh, we lost her.
Can you hear him and then share with me what you're hearing?
Yeah. I mean, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, Scott, and you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Well, that kind of stinks. I just wanted to make a comment, and I'm ignorant regarding this issue. Just listening in, though, I sympathize with Cindy. I believe in states' rights. This Common Core thing sucks. To put it frankly, we homeschool our kids, and here's an example of why it stinks for all of the listeners out there. We have a 1st grader who's learning to read, and one of the things in Common Core, for instance, there might be something that says, well, my mom, in our curriculum would say something like, my mom tells me to pick up my things. In Common Core, it would say something like, my mom nags me to pick up my things. And it's just little things like that. But it's blatant disrespectful. It's nationalized. It stinks. And, if our governor or our legislators are pushing that, then, you should be fired, quite frankly. That sucks. Let us have our independence. Let our state choose. Don't drag us into all this federal crap that you're trying to drag us into. And that's my comment.
Cindy, did you hear it?
I did. And,
okay.
Barely. And I hope I got off. It sounds like he's opposed to federal involvement. And here's something I'd like to brag about our Senator Enzi, our senior senator. When Senator Harkin put forth his proposed bill for the ESEA, Elementary and Secondary Reauthorization Act, the No Child Left Behind Act, Senator Enzi put forth an amendment that essentially, in Senator Harkin's bill, he asked for everything but the waiver, which our governor is committing us to, plus 30 more categories of data collection. And that's thousands of data points on student assessment alone. And that's without funding. That won't be just a burden for the federal government to collect, but for our state and then our local districts. But this is what Senator Enzi said. Essentially, it's much more than this, but essentially said that the federal government should get out of the business of deciding whether or not our schools are failing or succeeding. That's a local decision. And I would agree with him. And so I want you to know that happened a couple weeks ago. We watched it streamed. I was really proud to see our senator listening to the people. I think if we're listening to the people of Wyoming, they would say, yes, the best decisions are made here in Wyoming, and we need to maintain that authority and not relinquish it, not turn it over to the feds in any way. And so I would agree with the caller, and I say for those who are representing Wyoming, whether you're a local legislator or you're in the state or you're a national leader, we need to be listening, because when we stop listening to the people, we lose the legitimacy of government.
Okay, and we only have about a minute left, but let's try to fit one more call in. Caller, you're on the air with Cindy Hill. Please make it quick. We only have about a minute.
All right, Cindy, this is Dave. Listen, I've been involved in relationships where my kids went both to public schools here in Wyoming and where they were homeschooled. And my daughter's public schooling in Cheyenne was excellent. I'm kind of against the liberal leanings down there, but that's political. But homeschooling, I have a problem with the state. They don't... I don't know how to put this. They do not support homeschooling enough. I mean, they put roadblocks up, to be honest with you. And I don't agree with that. I think that the state should put more effort into assisting homeschoolers instead of trying to resist them. And that's my main beef with the state as far as education goes. They talk a good fight. They enjoy having homeschooled people, homeschool parents and homeschooled kids, but they put no effort into supporting them.
Okay, I want to thank you for the call. I hate to cut you off, but we only have about 30 seconds. So, Cindy, if you want to.
Yes, if you don't mind, compliance has been the focus of the agency long before I came in, and it returned now that I'm gone. But he's talking about student learning and actually supporting student learning, and that's where my focus was when I came in. That's what the people elected me to do. My focus was on instruction and student learning, and he's saying that's what any educational agency should be, and I agree. And what you'll hear now is that the compliance is the focus. Whether it's school improvement or operations of the department, it's all about compliance. And that's been important, but it's not the most important thing. It has to be done. I will agree with that, and everybody knows that. But let's make certain we keep the focus on student learning if we want to make a difference in the lives of our kids in Wyoming. And that's where the caller and I agree. Whether they're homeschooled or in public school, we have to agree that student learning is what matters here. And that's where we've lost our focus right now, and we need to get it back.
Okay, and I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time completely. So hopefully we can do this again soon. I want to thank Cindy Hill, State Superintendent of Public Instruction. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Hey, thanks so much, Don.
Thank you, and there you go. That's Cindy Hill. And yeah, I mean that was great. That was great. We'll definitely have her on again sometime soon for all your questions. News Talk 1270, KIML, Don Carpenter Show. Glad you could join us today. It was a fun show. It was very informative as well. Stay tuned for Rush. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
From Washington to Cheyenne to right here in Gillette, Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.